Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 54 of the Live Talk podcast. This is also episode 4 of the Kelvin Talk podcast. We're doing a little collaboration between me and Alex today, and John as our guest. So welcome.
John as the guest.
John is our guest.
I'm just hanging.
John owns the building.
I walk past.
He's not the guest.
I do not own the building.
It's his show.
How are we doing today, boys?
Yeah, good.
Nice.
I am a bit lightheaded, so if I say something stupid, I'm going to blame it on that.
Why are you lightheaded today?
Took too much caffeine. Haven't eaten.
Too much caffeine.
Very silly.
And John, how are you?
Hungry.
Hungry.
John
You didn't eat
competes
lunch?
tomorrow.
I compete tomorrow.
Gut cut things.
Yeah. So by the time we release this podcast, it'll be a few weeks after he's competed.
And
But
John would have totaled 515 kilos.
yeah,
Nah,
and
eight-
qualified.
820.
My prediction.
820. Kind of watch out.
and qualified for Master Nationals.
820 pounds. Sorry.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, John, how are you feeling about that? Obviously, we'll have the result after that. Hopefully, it's a good result. But how are you feeling about your comp tomorrow?
I'm feeling good. Feeling good. Just doing a very, very mild gut cut, which has been a while, but it's one of those things that as you do it all over again, you remember how it was, and to be honest, it's not that hard. I haven't had to cut
A lot of Cocoa Pops.
a lot of Cocoa Pops, some almonds, protein shakes. Could be worse. And
Nice,
turned out I had a Baker's cyst yesterday in my leg, which was a bit debilitating. So managing that, and then hopefully tomorrow hit the QT for Masters Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna pull out. You're thinking about pulling out yesterday, right?
Pre physio appointment because I didn't know what it was. It was quite painful. There was multiple loud pops in the knee. I didn't think it was a ligament because it would be way more painful than what it was. But obviously, initial reaction was, hey, I can't bend my knee. This is the worst timing.
Yeah, that's very fair. Well, I think what we're going to talk about today, we are going to talk about today, we're going to talk about competition day psychology.
Before you introduce the topic,
Okay,
John's
sorry.
got his
Sorry.
Denka rub and massage gun on the table to make sure that he's prepared properly for tomorrow.
Which I can't actually use right now.
So if you hear, then it's John. It's not us.
Me.
So, Kelvin, what made you think of this topic?
What made me think about this topic? I was thinking about all the comps that are coming up soon. I was going through my schedule of the next few months, and it basically looks like I'm going to be coaching at a comp almost every week, including the comp that I'm going to compete in myself. You're competing in 2 weeks. John's competing tomorrow. So I think that this topic is pretty relevant, especially towards the end of the year where people are trying to qualify for nationals, which, by the way, City Strength will be the last competition in New South Wales to compete, to qualify for the Open Nationals competition next year.
Is it actually?
It is on the 22nd of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Registration's open. It would have been open already. It may have been sold out already by the time this podcast is
And
released. So
if it is sold out, there's a meet 2 weeks prior, or maybe it's 3 weeks prior, at Alpha, which has 100 spots.
Yeah, they're doing a
are
2-day
they doing
thing.
2 day?
They're doing a
It's
2-day.
a 2-day.
Yeah, there you go.
So there will more than likely be spots left in that one.
Yep.
If you miss out on our one,
Yeah, cool.
so sign up for that one.
Yeah. So, many comps coming up. And then obviously there'll be people trying to qualify for the Mega Nationals next year. I think the qualifying period's up till December or something like that.
Is it December?
Yeah, because
No,
Mega
it was,
Nationals...
it was like Feb 10 or something this year, or Feb 1 or something like
Oh,
that.
because
this
Mega
year.
Nationals won't be till April or something,
till
right?
May.
May.
So it'll be early Feb, late January, early Feb, somewhere in there.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So many comps coming up soon. Comps with high stakes, I would say, trying to get into the top 12 now that there's a different kind of selection criteria coming.
And
into-
all of the invitational meets coming up. SPD Cup's like 8 weeks away now, so about 5 weeks from when we release this.
there's Perth Cup in 4
Perth
weeks
Cup.
from today. Not today, this week.
Perth Cup is that soon? 4
Perth-
weeks away.
Yeah, Perth Cup's.
So that'll be a
month away.
week out by the time people listen to this.
Yeah.
And Night of Champions as well.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's another invitational meet in Melbourne in Ballarat.
It's Bench Nationals too.
Bench National. So this
Yeah.
information is pretty relevant to.
Man, the calendar's packed.
It is packed, which is why I
Great.
thought we'd talk about this this topic, which, like I said, is athlete psychology / mindset on competition day, specifically arousal. I think that we like to get aroused. I like to get aroused when I compete. Do you like to get aroused, John, when you compete?
To some degree. To some degree.
Joke straight over his head.
when it comes to when it comes to arousal strategies, I know that as a coach, different athletes respond differently to different sort of like levels of stimulus, different levels of arousal. But I thought we'd start off by talking about our own sort of ways that we like to get aroused. I
I have several.
you have several ways.
Probably
It's not a good-
probably most of them we can't talk about.
This is
this did not plan out the way that I thought it would be. But is there another word for arousal that we can say?
no, it's just how dirty your mind is. That's all it is. It comes down to.
Mine's not that dirty.
How like I guess
G'd up.
how G'd you need to get, or like maybe just what
Amp
kind of mindset you need to be
Mindset.
in. What kind of
Optimal
mindset you need
that's
to be
right,
in before
yeah.
you lift.
I'm gonna keep saying arousal. I like it. Alex, when you compete,
Kelvin, yes.
I know you competed recently. Actually, how long was that ago? Not long. 12 weeks.
10, 12 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. And then another comp coming up in power.
I would have competed by the time this comes out.
How many
Or-
comps have you done? Like a bazillion.
I've done 24 comps.
Do you have to scroll down when you're on
Yeah.
open powerlifting?
Well, my name's quite common. There's like 4 Alex Hazes, so I had to get them split up into the different Alex Hazes on open powerlifting. Shout out James Wakefield for doing that for me on open powerlifting. But mine has like 20 plus, and then the next Alex Hayes has like 3, and then 2 and 1
Oh,
or
so
whatever.
they're
Some
the
guy.
peasant- they're the
Yeah, they've
peasant
only done a
Alex
couple of
Hayes.
comps. But yeah, I've done 24 comps now, so this will be 25.
So, I mean, I'm right to assume that you probably figured out what kind of mindset
Mm.
you would want to be in when you're competing. So, what is that? Do you feel like you're someone who gets really G'd up, or do you feel like you want to stay nice and calm? Yeah, what's your personal mindset or arousal?
So I used to be very, very anxious as a competitor, and in order to mask that, would get way too aroused and would kind of like almost hide from how I was feeling by like being overly yelly and
Why were you
backslapped.
anxious though?
Just because competition was like scary and nerve wracking, and
Yep.
you know what I mean. And you know, when you're new to it, like you don't really know how you're supposed to feel. You don't really know how to approach heavy weights because you're not very comfortable with them. You haven't done a lot of reps under 1RMs. Like, you know, it's new lifting in a, you know, new environment and all that kind of stuff. So it was for me a very steep learning curve for like how aroused I needed to be from
The first
when I
10
started
comps.
competing. Yeah, probably the first 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I was like really up and down, and I would often by the end of the comp be like exhausted because I
Yeah.
was too up the
Just
whole
expended.
comp. Yeah. So like, I mean, this is something that I say to all my lifters is like, if you're on 10 for your squat warm ups, like how long can you sustain that? You're gonna run out of gas by the time you get to your second deadlift or opening deadlift, which obviously you don't want. You want to still be coming up by the time you get there. So you need to like learn how to taper up and down your arousal as the day goes. And I think the thing for me is like being more comfortable competing was the thing that made me relax a little bit.
Yeah, a bit
Just
more confident.
literally doing more comps, doing more heavy singles in training, you know, being comfortable with the weights I'm attempting and confident with the weights I'm attempting. Because, you know, you go and do your first comp and it's always new weights.
Yeah.
Especially how we used to train 10, 12 years ago was like quite submaximal. You do like a 2x2 below your opener and then you go in and all the weights were completely uncharted.
Yeah.
So it was more scary.
And I think that's a really good argument for competing, even though you know, you're very new. You might not hit the qualifying total and whatnot. Like, it doesn't matter because end of the day, you're not going to get better at competing unless you compete.
Yeah,
right?
competing itself is a skill. And part of that skill is learning how to actually manage your emotions and take advantage of what you need and ignore what you don't need and push to the side stuff that doesn't work. And the only way you can learn what you actually need is by trialing things. So that for me, it was always like, I was always way too aroused and then I would mis-execute or I
Yeah,
would
misgroove and stuff like that.
misgroove or I would like beat a call or like I had one comp where I like stood up to the top of my squat and then literally got to the top of the squat and then lost my balance and it was no lift. It was like a really important lift at my first international comp.
Yep.
Just like that's a pretty good example of like, you know, I wasn't quite controlled enough.
So what do you like now?
So
approaching your
now,
comps?
I do like to G up, particularly squat and deadlift. Like I'll be ammonia, no back slaps anymore. I used to get back slaps. No like real outward yelling. Like I'll do a little bit of like grunts here and there.
Can you demonstrate for us right
Like
now?
like those ones.
That actually is pretty accurate. Yeah, that is.
Like
a very
a
familiar
couple of
sound.
those ones, and dog barking and shit. Nah, like I will get like reasonably outwardly like G'd up, but it is mostly in my
Internal,
own
right?
head and internal. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't really know that like I'm super fired up until probably like my second and third deadlifts. Bench, I'm super chill.
Yep.
I think like if I can take my time and make sure I get my setup right and execute and actually listen to the calls and all that kind of stuff, I'll execute on bench better. Squat and deadlift, I'll get pretty high up, but I'll save it until like I'm 30 seconds before it's bar loaded. Like I'll be like kind of trying to sort of keep my heart rate down, stay a bit relaxed. And then I'll be one lifter out. I'll crank the music up. I'll start to like bounce up and down and get moving and then get into it. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of like saving it for little like 1 minute periods here and there.
Yeah. I like what you said about if you're getting to like level 10 arousal for like your warm ups, you're not going to be able to keep sustaining that for a long time. I know for me, on comp day, I've got one good lift in me, like one good, like heavy G up, big G up for a heavy lift. And after that, it's just like
Yeah, and
just
I
crash.
think a really, really important part of this is that the comp plan is realistic enough and the jumps are big enough that you
Yeah.
actually have the ability to be able to rise between each attempt. Like if you're attempting a 200 squat and you're going 190, 195, 200, like you're basically doing 200 3 times.
Yep.
Whereas if you're going 170, 185, 200, you've kind of got the chance to
Build into it.
build into it, like be 6 out of 10 amped, then be 8 out of 10 amped,
Yeah.
and then be 10 out of 10 amped.
Yeah.
And I think things work out a lot better that way. But I also think that the confidence that you have when you're doing a lighter load is greater. So you're going to have better control. You're going to be more composed. You're going to be able to execute better. And then you get to your next attempt and you've built confidence from that and you can
Yeah.
kind of like build into it.
Yep.
So like that's for me, a huge part of managing arousal on comp days, making sure that the attempts are light enough that you don't need to be aroused for the first 2 or especially the first one.
I agree. John, competing tomorrow
Yes.
of the time that this podcast is recorded. I've only ever seen you compete once in my life
What, last year?
at Adonis, Campbelltown, that comp.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, about November. I think it was November last year.
Yeah. I've only seen you compete once, and you seem pretty calm.
Yeah.
Out externally, at least, you seem pretty calm.
Yeah, like Alex, I haven't done 24 comps. Actually, my open powerlifting profile is really easy because you look at all the shit numbers. That's me.
Is there many John Trans?
There's only one other. There's only one other, at least on open powerlifting. There's only one other. The other guy's like in Texas or something. So like
He's stronger than you.
gun toting Texan,
Yeah, Texan brother.
and he's stronger than me. But
Is his, like some of his weights in pounds? Because I always see,
I think so, yeah.
I always see that occasionally, and because obviously when we go on there, it's written in kilos. So when you might see like 219.7 kilos, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Because they have their comps
well,
in
all his
pounds.
numbers are bigger, so I tell myself they're in pounds, so I can make myself feel better. No, in all seriousness, when I first started doing comps, much like Alex, got overly amped because also like around then, that was the culture. That was the cool thing that you did, like back slaps.
right.
And attempts were something like 190, 195, 200. People would, there was no like real sort of thought put into it like we did now.
Yeah. Well, you get 3 attempts at 200 if you put 200 3 times.
Yeah, people would normally do their idea with that. Yeah, you do your opener.
Yeah.
You do your biggest lift, and you have a second crack at it on your third attempt. That was the mind.
That was common.
It was very common.
Yeah, that's a good point, John. Is like when we started powerlifting, the prominent culture was Westside, Elite FTS, big guys lifting equipped who were like on a shit ton of gear and bouncing off the walls with red faces.
Yeah.
And like that was kind of adopted by the raw culture.
Yeah.
And it took a while for that to kind of be phased out in a way. And you definitely see like when you see Sheffield or IPF Worlds now, the best lifters are actually really, really in control.
Yeah. Very
And like
composed.
really steady and really composed and controlled. which definitely was not the case 10 years ago.
Yeah. Also, you would see on average openers way harder than what they are now. You know, so
Yeah, it's actually such a good point. Is like when you compare the top lifters now, you know, in the IPF, the execution and the made lifts is so much higher. And I think part of that is because they're in control and composed and everything like that. Whereas when we started watching lifting, it was like guys like Dan Green, Pete Rubish, who would like routinely go 1 for 3 on lifts.
yes,
Routinely,
shocking.
like just misgroove or lose balance. And I think a big part of that is because of not managing arousal and not being able to execute because they weren't able to actually think because their mind was just going fucking bananas.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd go in like fully amped up, even for the opener, and just nail it, come off the platform, and like either internally or at least at the back, go, yeah, freaking nailed it or whatever. But like obviously over time, yeah, you can't stay amped up for the whole thing. And as you know, being a coach as well, something you preach to, you know, I'm sure to our own clients is you need to be able to amp up for your lifts to a degree, whatever, in figuring out what it is for the individual lifter. Yeah, so you have what's left over for the final deadlift. So I pretty much operate the same. I developed a method that works for me, and that is I visualize the lift. So for me, the training is done, obviously, and I use a trigger on comp day. So my trigger is chalk bowl. So if you ever see me at comp, I'll put both hands in chalk bowl. That is when I might just be staring into the chalk bowl.
What if there's no chalk ball?
There's always a chalk bowl at comp.
What if there's no chalk ball?
No, you pick something where there will always be a comp.
There wasn't
So
chalk.
some of my lifters in the past would use the knurling on the bar, center knurling on the bar, but I find that problematic because your clock's ticking. So I would pick chalk bowl. Some of the lifters would pick something else. They use music as a cue or whatever, and that's the trigger to switch on that visualization.
Yep.
So the visualization is literally just you doing a squat, and I would practice that by watching videos of my own squat, and then I'll take the visual aid away and I picture it in my head. Okay, cool. So whilst I was training here, I brought that back out, do that, and then so on comp day, it'll be, you know, the squat video in my head playing before squats.
When you visualize, is that first person or third person?
Third.
Do you see yourself squatting?
I see myself squatting.
I see.
I see myself squatting. That works for me. And then I just go out and execute that visualization in my head. And that keeps me sort of amped up, aroused, but also focused that I have a singular task and that's it. So I don't do back slaps, mainly because I don't feel it anyway afterwards.
Or head slaps?
Absolutely no head pats unless you want to get a low kick to the leg or punch.
All right, note to self, don't do that to John
Don't do
tomorrow.
that.
Slap on the back of the neck.
Do not touch my head, the like top of my back of my head ever, because you will get an elbow. Reflex action from
Trauma.
trauma.
From growing up in the hood.
Just saying. I'll do ammonia, but it will be
A mild sort of...
It'll be a mild. I've been known to walk around coaching in the back room and sniffing ammonia myself. Like it doesn't really get me going.
Yeah.
You need to get a stronger whiff.
Yeah.
You need to get,
I used to
you need
be-
get your nose right in there.
I used to be the guy that either got amped up and at some point midway through, like maybe 6-7 years ago, I'd be the guy that didn't know how to focus my energy. So I would just go stare at a wall. I go stare at a wall because I find myself like losing track and like my mind would just go everywhere.
I mean,
And that-
would you say that you were just like overstimulated by everything that was happening as well, which is why you had to...
I was very easily, looking back, didn't know at the time. The coping mechanism was to stare at the wall and I wouldn't talk to anyone. Like I just go look away, put music on. And now I just put music on. I probably won't engage in like a full-on conversation, but like, be courteous and say hello and stuff. But I'll have music. Not so much that I want to listen to a tune to amp me up, but it helps just keep me focused.
Would it
See,
be
I
annoying?
used to do that as well, where I would actually just like tell whoever was handling me, hey man, I'm just gonna go over
Sit
there.
in the corner.
I'm just in the corner.
Yeah.
And I'd put like a jacket or a jumper over my head and I'll just sit there in darkness, silence, and with music and darkness. Whereas now, like that I'm more comfortable and confident competing, I will actually, after an attempt, go into the crowd and find someone to talk to or go and find a coach to talk to and kind of like distract myself a little bit until
Because you don't need to lock in for
yeah,
like
until
the 10
it's-
minutes. until it's
exactly
your
right.
lift,
Until it's time for me to then switch back on again.
Yeah.
And I've found that actually saves me a lot of energy.
It does.
Like at team champs, I had a couple of my friends come to watch, do an attempt, and I just go walk out the front, just have a yarn with them, and be like, all right, I'm about 4 minutes away. I'm going to go back.
Yeah,
get my
because it
music
doesn't.
back on.
Powerlifting, like comp day, doesn't expend that much
It
energy.
shouldn't be.
And also is like that's what you do when you train, right? You do a set and then
You chill.
you're yapping around with
Yeah.
people, and then you're like, all right, cool, it's time for me to go and do another set.
That's what I found when I was competing as well. Obviously, I don't have as much experience as you guys, but I'll do my lift, and then I would think to myself, like, what do I do? Like, do I stay locked in, or do I like walk around? It feels wrong to walk around because I feel like I have to stay locked in, and so I feel like that's not something a lot of people have mentioned. Where it's like it's okay to just chill out because, like you said, that's literally what you do in training.
One of the other things that I do, and obviously I've started doing this more recently now that like live streams are so available. So I actually watch my lifts between lifts. Like I'll go on the stream and rewind because that's what I'll do in training. Like I'll film my set and then I'll be like, cool, what's my next attempt going to be? I'm going to like prepare myself for that. I'm going to go watch my last
You
attempt,
bagging
see
out
what
the
I
ref
did
at the
well.
same time.
And that was haven't done that in a long time. But yeah, like that's another thing is like you want to try and emulate what training looks like,
Yeah.
which means, you know, reviewing footage, which means, you know, probably taking music out and talking to people, which is what most people will do between sets. And then when it's time to focus again, you go back to whatever you need. And you mentioned trigger, John. For me, it's the snapping of the ammonia cap.
Oh yeah, I've
And
seen
then
you
it's
do
like,
that. Yeah,
It's like I've got it
That
in my
sound.
I've got it in my mouth, snap the cap, belt on, and then
it was funny.
off we go.
Every time I've seen you snap an ammonia cap over the years, you've done it the exact same way every single time.
How's that? What do you?
He
what do you
pulls
do?
it off his ear and goes snap, and it will be a two-handed,
Two-hander.
two-hander. It will always be a
two-hander.
two-hander, and it will
And
throw.
throw.
And then throw with the right.
Throw. And yeah,
Yeah, every time you sniff ammonia, you smell it and you peg it at someone.
That's why I don't like the bottles because
It's on in the head.
you have to screw
Screw
it
it
back
in.
on.
Yeah,
so you got to be like careful about it. Whereas like that's why I really like the caps. It's like single use, bang, throw it.
also the consistency with the caps.
Yeah,
like,
that's-
you know,
that's
it's
the
the
best
same going to
thing.
be every time.
There was
the
there was a
caps.
long period of time where we couldn't get them in Australia, and I'm gonna attribute that to my lack of gains for that 3-year period.
Yeah, it was definitely the lack of caps.
You don't know what I do on the weekends. Not that anymore.
In terms of my experiences with competition arousal,
No one asked you, dude. You're the host.
um,
You don't get to.
I,
Answer the
I'm
question.
asking myself the question.
Yeah, Kelvin. What about you, mate? What do you like to do?
You know what? I don't want to answer anymore. when I first started powerlifting, I was also same story. Like I used to get really, really G'd up and maintain that. Like I thought I had to maintain that level of arousal throughout the whole comp between lifts because I just genuinely didn't know what the right thing was to do. And I thought the right thing was like I got to stay locked in. I've got to like stay focused in on what I'm going to do. Yeah, but I realize it's okay to just chill out, and that's what I try to encourage with my clients as well. Which is why I try to like talk to them, have some fun with them, just joke around in the back room because that I feel like helps calm them down. Not trying to distract them or anything, but just like help them calm down. And I think that I perform best when I'm very composed. Obviously, some level of like arousal and getting a bit G'd up. What I like to do in the lead up to my comps is I start to visualize in my head the numbers that I want to try attempt in comp. And because I've been to so many comps at different gyms, I can sort of like picture the environment, I picture the crowd, I picture the feeling of like myself grabbing onto the bar when I'm going for a squat. And that actually causes me to feel quite like aroused, actually. Very aroused. It kind of elevates my heart rate.
Why'd you say that slowly?
It actually elevates my heart rate, and I feel like
Grabbing on stiff bars,
Grabbing on-
stiff poles.
it makes me feel quite focused on what I'm going to do. So
So you focus on the actual outcome, like the number, what you want to lift.
yes, I visualize like it's, for example, if I am aiming to squat 260 on the bar, or I think that's like a realistic number, I kind of visualize, okay, that's like 260 on the bar. It's 4 reds and a blue. Sorry, it's
Yellow and black.
yeah, yellow, black, and a collar. And I kind of like think about the feeling of the sensation of the bar on my back.
Okay.
That's sort of what I visualize, and I just like visualize it feeling really, really good. And I try to sort of like have that same feeling on comp day. But when it comes to comp day, I don't feel like I'm as attached to the particular number or whatever. but it kind of helps me prep towards that. I think that helps me sort of lock in on my training as well, where like the narrative that I play in my head is like I'm building towards that during my training. Like I want to squat 240 today. It's so that I can squat X amount in comp and kind of like build that story in my head.
One thing that I think is really helpful on that note is to try to contextualize what weights you're doing in training and fit them into where they would be in a comp plan. So like if, for me, for instance, like if I'm squatting 220, I know that that's roughly an opener for me. So the warm-ups that I take before that would be essentially the same that I would do in comp.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like preparing myself for what those jumps are going to feel like.
And then you treat the 220 like an opener.
Exactly
in the
right.
same sort of way that you're going to get like G up for it and stuff, right?
Exactly right. And I think that really helps. What are some things that you will do with your clients' training to like get them better prepared mentally for figuring out their arousal level or the ideal arousal level?
Yeah, I think that a reactive way that I like kind of work that out with my clients is like they might be going for something that's close to their top end and then they misgrooved or something. And so a reactive way, I sort of go to them and go, okay, how did you approach that weight? How did you approach that set? Like, do you feel like you were really aroused? Do you feel like you're like too calm? And sort of like troubleshoot it that way and see how they approached it and go from there. But then another one is like, say for example, I know that they're going for numbers close towards the top end this week. Just giving them a bit of a chat, bit of a prep talk, going, okay, like I want to make sure that you approach these sets and these weights in this particular way. Like I know that you perform best when you're calm, so I want you to make sure you stay calm. Obviously, like get the ammonia and set your routine up the same way every time. Don't change anything, and trust in yourself. Like back yourself. But I really think that the best way to figure that out is in a competition. Like you really know how you're going to respond to different levels of arousal and stimulus when you're actually doing it, right? So that's why I'm a huge advocate for just getting people to compete regardless of like what level you think you're at.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, there's no need to hold back. There's no need to quote unquote get stronger because you're not going to get better if you don't do it.
Also, like the difficulty in powerlifting, we compete so few times. Like the actual game that we are training for.
Yeah, it's not like tennis we play every week, right?
Yeah, tennis or any other sort of field sport where you can play, week after week or every 2 weeks. Like powerlifting, you do 2, 3, maybe 4 comps a year. So it's really important that you get in as much opportunity as possible to practice.
And also the fact that like when you compete, you're not competing in the same gym that you're at. Whereas like for some field sports and stuff, you go to the same field every week. So the environment's the same, the people's the same. So it's a skill in itself to be able to rock up to a completely different gym that you've never been before. You don't know anyone else in the crowd. You don't know who your competitors are. And basically putting yourself in a spot where like you're literally, you don't know where you are.
Yeah, go interstate.
Yeah.
Go interstate. Make a journey of it.
Yeah, I think the other thing I think we can do in our training to kind of mitigate the fact that we do compete so infrequently is actually have top sets in training often and perhaps every week. It doesn't have to be a single. Maybe it's a triple, maybe it's a double, whatever. It doesn't have to be like a hard single or a hard double or a hard triple, but having exposure to intensities that are high enough that force you to get to a particular arousal level allows you to practice that more often and practice your setup under those loads, practice how amped you need to be, or can you do it relaxed, or like, week 1 I was relaxed and week 2 I was amped and then my performance was worse. So like, let's be more relaxed. So you kind of get like a chance weekly to practice that with each of the different lifts, which I think is really, really important. And that's something that back when John and I started, there was so few top set exposures, like just in general.
No, everything was very summarized.
Everything was like 5s, 6s. It was pretty much 5s all the time, 5s, 3s. And not really a lot of chances at doing like super heavy sets. So you'd often see people like trip over themselves because they didn't know how to handle themselves when they got to those heavier loads.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we do a lot better now with like modern programming systems is that we give lifters chances much more often to A, practice executing, but B, practice getting to the right state of mind
it's funny you
to
mentioned
execute.
That's literally the approach I've had with this 4-week prep, because due to time constraints, I was just basically going, well, I need exposure to like heavy weights. There's not enough time to like build that much more strength, if anything. So I've just done heavy singles followed by like a few back offs, and that's it.
I think what some powerlifters miss, some lifters miss, especially newer ones, is they think that the top set is where they get stronger, when it's really just your opportunity to express your strength at that point, at that range. And I think, just building upon what you were saying, that's your opportunity to get better at expressing your strength at that point. But the real like building blocks and building your strength is done in the back offs, is done in like the meat and potatoes of the program. But like use that top set as your opportunity to understand how you can better express your strength at that point, rather than like, because I'm gonna squat 200 and it's more than what I squatted before, like, that's gonna get me stronger, which is not particularly
Also,
true.
I'll caveat that it's not necessarily a max out, right? You're not going balls to the wall, like completely nothing left. It's just practicing at heavy weight.
Yeah. And I think oftentimes when people approach, like let's say, let's use the 200 squat example that we were talking about earlier. If you're approaching 170 and 180 the same way that you intend on approaching 200, I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas if you approach 170 and you're like just blasé and chill, and then you approach 180 and you're a bit more, a bit more focused, and then you approach 200 and now all of a sudden you're bouncing off the walls, you're much more likely to mess that up. Whereas if you kind of try to keep things reasonably steady, and then just like turn the dial up a smidge when you need to, I think that's probably the better approach for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Kelvin, I have another question for you, and
go
John
for
as
it.
well. How do you
I thought I was the
identify?
host.
Huh?
Nothing.
How do you identify whether your lifters are, whether your lifters need to be more relaxed, need to be more amped? Like, how do you identify that in their training, particularly in online capacity where you don't physically see them?
Good question. I think there are just some personalities that you start to learn, like, you don't perform very well when you're very like G'd up and stuff. I think those are the ones who are like more anxious kind of lifters, who are less confident in themselves, who are less confident in their performance, I would say. Some signs could be even in their communications to you. They're like, I was really nervous going into this session. I was very nervous going to this top set. Like I didn't really know what to do. Something like that. I think they would probably be better off being a bit more calm. And then on the flip side, there might be some lifters who were like, I just felt really heavy in my back. Like I had a bit of a long day. No, I don't really take pre-workout. I didn't take ammonia. Maybe those are the ones who need a bit more of a bit of a kick up the bum, where it's like, all right, let's turn up the dial a little more. Let's G up a bit more, so you can really like get a bit more focused in. I think another sign for someone who needs to calm down a little is a lifter who's like always approaching every single one of their sets at like 10, like a 10 out of 10 level arousal, and then they come out really gassed. And they're like, I just didn't have energy for my accessories and things like that.
Their performance drops off during the session for sure. Yeah,
I think those are some signs for whether or not a lifter needs to be either a bit more calm or a bit more hyped. Yeah.
John, what about you?
Well, adding to what Kelvin said, one thing I do notice over years is lifters who are like overly anxious or overly amped for certain sets. You can tell from the footage, or in an online setting, they may do some stuff or habits that are slightly different from their normal sets. Like their setup might be a little bit long. They might be a little bit more fidgety, or setting up for a squat, they'll set their feet and they're still setting their feet and like
they're shuffling around.
They're shuffling around. Or there's just little things because they're trying to find that sort of that right spot because there's some anxiety around it.
Yeah, they're like, got to get it right, got to get it perfect.
Yeah, got to nail it. Oh, no, it's not quite right or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have too much of an issue if, say, for example, someone walked it out, re-racked it and tried it again. But if they're just like taking way more time, I'm like, there's something going on there.
Oh, and also for bench as well, same thing where they like just keep twisting the bar in the rack.
There's sure
I've seen
signs.
many
Like
of
there's
those.
just out of the ordinary stuff that you'll notice. That's probably the most obvious one to me on top of what you said. But yeah, reading body language is usually key.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for me, I think you could tell. Yeah, body language is huge. I think you can also kind of see the underlying effort in a set by watching someone push. Like you can almost like see it in their face, and you can see it by the way that they're moving whether they're like fully
Confident or not,
giving
right?
you
Yeah.
like 100%, like you said, Kelvin, like, did they need to kick up the ass?
Mm.
I also really like the frequent, exposure to top sets because you get an idea of what someone likes to do naturally, and then whether when they turn it up a notch, like maybe you watch the video and now all of a sudden the music's really loud in the background, or they've got their
Or they've got
headphones on and
headphones
you
on,
can
yeah.
hear the music, like it's fucking loud.
Yeah.
And then at that point in time is when they start to rush, or
Yeah.
they start to misgroove, or like something changes from their initial setup, like
Or
what you
perform
said.
better.
What you said, John, or they actually rise to it.
Mm.
And you can see both ways.
Mm.
And I see probably more often I see people rise
Yeah.
as the arousal rises,
Yeah.
and people actually can do quite a good job of figuring it out on their own as long as you give them enough opportunities to.
Yeah, and I think also just giving them a bit of guidance and go like, hey, maybe next week just turn it up a dial, turn it up a notch. I mean, from personal experience, I know that my deadlifts perform so much better when I'm actually like really quite like my arousal levels are quite high. I know my deadlifts fucking suck. They feel so heavy when I'm not actually
Me too, yeah.
focused.
Feels fucking
It's also
glued.
one of the lifts. I'd say you could just monster it up.
Yeah, you can definitely,
Especially if you
like,
put
you
conventional.
yeah,
especially
you
if you-
can
yeah, especially if you
definitely get away with just Neanderthaling it up a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's another topic that I want to talk about.
I
Which is,
actually think I
okay.
had something else to say,
Go for
but
it.
now I'm forgetting.
Don't worry, I want to move on.
Yeah, that's fine. I might remember.
If you remember, you can bring it back up. But we're going to move on to something that's still comp related, but on a different level. I wanted to talk about the jury at international level competitions. I know that we've had this conversation before on a previous podcast. One of the times it wasn't recorded because we had technical issues, but I wanted to raise it because it's kind of still fresh in my mind from my experiences at the comp in Japan, the regional comp. And obviously, by the time that this podcast has been released, we had just had the sub-junior, junior world champs. There's another regional competition coming up in New Zealand, Oceania. But yeah, I wanted to talk about IPF juries. What are our thoughts? What are the benefits of the jury? What advantages we think they could bring, and then what disadvantages they could have. But
So
start with initial thoughts.
yeah, so I generally think that using technology in sports is a good idea because I think that it has the potential to give us a more even playing ground and a more even playing field,
Less subjective.
less
Arguably.
subjective, and it gives us the chance to ensure that we get stuff like refereeing, quote unquote, right. So, like, in theory, the jury is fantastic. In theory,
Intention,
the
right?
bunker in rugby league, which is a fucking shit show, in theory is great because it's like, hey, we're here to ensure that, bad decisions get overturned, or, mistakes are, less mistakes are made essentially in
So
refereeing.
what for those who don't watch footy like me?
Yeah.
What is the bunker?
So the bunker is essentially the jury.
Same thing.
It's video.
Video reffing?
Yeah, and they fuck it up so bad.
Do they?
All the time. Like it's actually like probably the most spoken about topic with rugby league is like, how does the bunker keep fucking it up?
Why? Like what happens?
I honestly don't know. Like I genuinely think that there's idiots in there, which is like the problem.
Okay.
Anyway, that's
So it's a similar concept.
topic for another day. But for powerlifting, like in the rule book, it says that the jury is supposed to be used for quote egregious
Yeah.
mistakes.
Egregious.
That is the quote in the rule book. Egregious mistakes.
Define egregious.
Well, I mean that's
Wi-
part of the issue.
Egregious for me is like wildly like.
Is that an ambiguous term?
That was
It
clear.
is definitely ambiguous.
For me, my interpretation of it is like it's clearly a wrong decision by the referees because the referees weren't paying attention or needs new glasses or something. But
Something happened.
something happened where maybe the referees couldn't see the lift properly or something.
Yep.
And that's when the jury steps in.
Yeah, or there's actual human error, and that is totally fine.
Yep.
People make mistakes, and sure, we should be able to like be okay and like with people making mistakes. everyone who's listening to this podcast makes mistakes all the time at their job. Referees make mistakes all the time.
Yep.
That's totally fine. That's the whole point of the jury, is that when there is a mistake that is very clearly wrong, it gets overturned.
That's when they step in.
Yeah, what the jury is not there for is to scrutinize lifts that have one red light, or scrutinize lifts like with a fine tooth comb and try and find the smallest thing wrong with it, because is seemingly what happens. Is we get lifts that are borderline and not egregious, which is what the rule book says. Those are the ones that are getting overturned, and it leads to this confusion. And the reason why there's confusion is because when things are borderline, it means it could go either way.
Yep.
So you should, in that case, actually be able to live with the platform referee's
it should
decision.
be up to the referees who are meant to be refereeing that session, up to them to make that decision, because they're your referees.
And the benefit of the doubt should go to the lifter.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And it seems like the more that the jury steps in, they're actually not giving the benefit of the doubt to the lifter. And also in doing so, not giving benefit of the doubt to the referees who are on the platform.
I agree.
Basically, they're performing like referees who aren't actually sitting up close to the platform either.
Yeah.
They may as well just be refereeing that session if they're going to overturn every single fucking lift.
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty much. But
And the biggest issue that I have with it is the inconsistency, because it seems like, particularly with the bench depth rule and squat depth, those are the two ones that are, seemingly overturned the most. There's just differences from session to session.
Yeah.
And this is the issues that people have with rugby league as well. It's like, guy gets hit in the fucking head by a shoulder, and in one game he's sent off, and in another game it's not even a penalty, and you're left like, what the hell's going on? And that's the problem with powerlifting too, except powerlifting is a lot more objective. Like, we have clear markers set by the rules. This is what squat depth is. This is what bench depth is. It should be a lot more consistent. It should be closer from session to session, but it seems like there's just a lot of discrepancies and a lot of difference between what some referees see and what others referees see.
well, yeah.
But sorry, I didn't even get to what I have. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
keep going.
I got sidetracked. My actual biggest issue with the jury is that it undermines the referees on the platform.
Yeah, their decision.
100%.
And if you're refereeing and you go, oh, yep, that's depth, that's all good, white light, and then you've got a referee sitting at a table miles away watching on a little screen, and he or she is telling you, no, you're wrong. Your thought refereeing that next lift is like, oh shit, I got that one wrong. That's not what you should be thinking as a referee.
you're watching over your shoulder.
You should be watching the lift and focusing on what's happening in front of you, not thinking, oh, okay, I thought that was depth, but do these guys think it was depth? I'm going to judge my decision based on that. And then it becomes
shouldn't be like that.
subconscious confusion in your head, and you're like kind of tackling with the idea of like, should I be reffing what I'm seeing, or should I be reffing what I think they're seeing? And then it becomes, a mess.
I mean, like, yeah, as a referee, you should just be reffing it based on what you're seeing then and there, without any
Influence.
Without any influence. But obviously, subconsciously, you're going to think some sort of way, because humans hate being wrong, right? You don't like to be wrong and sort of like, what's the word? Like, challenged. So subconsciously, like, your brain's gonna be like, oh shit, like they thought that my decision making is wrong. So what should I do?
I also think that there's going to be instances where referees are refereeing badly, and they should be called out.
Yep.
And I think that's okay, but it's just, again, it comes back to the word egregious. The thing actually has to be very
Clear.
The decision has to be bad on the platform for
And
it
the
to be
thing
overturned.
is,
Not like, oh, that one could go either way. Let's see what the jury says. It should never be that.
the thing is, there's 3 referees as well for a reason. It's
Exactly,
not just one person making all the shots. There's 3, and obviously, like, it's a majority rules. If you get 2 reds, then it's no lift. If you get 2 whites,
Also, there's
it's
been
a lift.
cases of jury overturning
3 lifts, 3 white lights.
3 white lights.
Which is, again, not in the rules.
Yeah, it's not in
allowed.
the rules. So, like, why is that happening? So, I think the overarching issue is, like you mentioned earlier, the inconsistency. Like, we all just want some consistency so we know what the goal is. If the goalposts keep moving, how are people supposed to train towards, or what standard are we supposed to do? And also, as a referee, I mean, all 3 of us are referees. If that goalpost of what we're supposed to be adjudicating keeps moving, how are we supposed to know what the standard is supposed to be?
And then everyone just makes their own kind of standard, makes their own assumptions, and then
Yeah, it's also already difficult enough to, look at a lift, make a decision on at that moment. Like sometimes lifts are very borderline, and you just have to remind yourself, okay, if it's borderline, then it should benefit the doubt should go to the lifter. Let alone having to look over your shoulder to have someone basically tell you, oh, they're going to do their job for you, make a decision to override yours.
I think in principle the concept is valid. I think there's definitely valid reasons for it in the case that there are mistakes that happen. But I think the other thing that limits the jury in terms of their decision making is the technology that's actually provided to them. I think that I've seen at comps, there are jury members who are all looking at one screen with
they're
one
sharing
angle.
one screen.
Yeah, they're sharing one small screen with one angle. And that angle usually isn't an angle which sometimes might not be an angle that actually is, I guess, like...
reflective of where
reflective of what the lift is doing.
or what the referees are seeing.
Yes, exactly. And that's why you've got referees positioned at different spots on the platform. Whereas if you're looking at one screen with one angle, like how are you meant to judge depth, like squat depth, if you're looking at it from the front and you like it's borderline, but you're not seeing it from the side?
Yeah, and the other issue with that is like sometimes people squat wonky, and they have one.
Yeah, they've got one high hip and the other
one hip that's high and one hip that's depth. They're gonna theoretically get a white light from the good hip and a red light from the bad hip, which leaves them open to scrutiny of the jury because it's one red light. And then if the jury happens to be watching that lift from the bad hip side, the lift is fucked.
Yep.
And then, I mean, that's not reflective of the totality of the lift. It's only reflective of one angle, which is the unflattering side. And then vice versa, if another lifter has the opposite problem with the opposite hip, or the same problem with the opposite hip,
then they get good.
Then they're fine. And that's not really fair.
That's not fair, no. And I think that we had a discussion last time we spoke about this where it was the idea of like, all right, let's set up the cameras where the referees are seeing it. But then it's like, you may as well just seat the fucking jury next to the referee and have two referees. And
the
then
referees also move. Yeah. Like they also move based on, whether the spotters doing the right, they move behind or they move in front, or there's only three spotters, they stand in a different spot.
Yeah.
Or they slightly further away or slightly closer. Like that's up to the referee where they sit.
And I think the other issue is that the jury, they watch the lift on that screen the same time that the lifter is lifting. So it's not like a replay or anything. Like it's a live feed from what I'm aware of. And I've seen juries who are literally just not paying attention. Like they are falling asleep, just sitting there.
Doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. And, you've got some older referees sometimes. And they're
long days.
I'm going to tell you a story about my worst jury experience. Back at APU Nationals in 2022. I had a lifter.
It's a jury.
There was a jury on only one of the two platforms, and
even that, how is that fair?
Well, exactly
the
right.
one like if you're lifting on a platform without a jury, then you're fine. It's just up to the
So there were two platforms at the venue. Only one of the two platforms had a jury. My lifter was attempting a deadlift for the win. She got her first two deadlifts comfortably. The third was a small jump. I think it was only a 3 kilo jump because it was all we needed for the win. Because the other girl pulled slightly ahead of us and we just needed to chip her. Easy deadlift, smoked it, looked identical to the first two. All of a sudden, 2 red lights. And I'm like, that's pretty ridiculous. I'm going to go over to the jury because I have one. So I go over to the jury. And as I get there, there's actually only 2 people sitting at the jury when there was supposed to be 3. I won't name who was supposed
So you went to the jury table to challenge.
So I went to the jury to challenge.
As is your right.
As is my right as a coach.
Yeah.
And I get there and there's only 2 people sitting at the desk. One of the guys is sitting on his phone. The other lady was watching. And then there was another guy who I won't name who was sitting in the crowd who, as I approached the jury, he got out of his seat in the crowd and came over to me and he said, "We support the referee's decision."
What?
And I said to him, "You weren't even watching."
Yeah, right.
And they didn't even have a screen. They weren't watching a replay or anything because they didn't even have.
So they were all sitting on the one side.
It wasn't even a live stream for the comp. Well, I think there was, but it was terrible. And yeah, fucking unbelievable. What is the point of that jury if they weren't like one of the guys wasn't even sitting there?
Just don't have a jury.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, so in the international sense at IPF, international events, we all agree they should have their own screen. Like, what is the solution? Is what I'm trying to get at. Like,
See,
what is the
okay,
solution?
so
we can complain all we want, but like, what is the solution here?
My opinion is that referee's call should stand unless there is a challenge
I agree.
from the coach of the lifter.
Yep.
That is the only time you can that is the only time that there can be an overturn. So if there's a 2-1 no lift, you can, as the coach, challenge, and then it goes to the jury.
Well, that concept of like number of challenges we discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Captain's challenge, right?
You could use that, but then what happens if you waste one and then you really need one? I don't love that. Because
True.
because you're always going to need it most at the end, like for the final deadlift. or
Isn't
the
there a
third
rule
attempts or
where
whatever.
if you challenge,
Money.
if it's
Yeah,
if it's wrong, you're gonna pay €50 or something like that?
it's €100, I
100
think, and you get your money back provided that it's a bona fide.
It's correct.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be correct. It has to be like an actual
Legitimate.
legitimate challenge. You can't just throw
Oh,
it.
right.
You
Not a
can't just-
tactic.
Yeah,
you can't
yeah,
just
okay.
throw like and waste their time. Then
Yeah,
they'll keep the money. But yeah, I don't like the idea of the jury stepping in and fine tooth comb watching every one red light lift and going, oh, should we overturn this one? Because it would be very boring sitting at that table, and it would be very hard not to get like antsy and as a human feel like you want to do something.
Yeah, I know. Like,
So
you,
you'd be like, oh, we've got an opportunity here to do some work. Let's have a really
and
close
then
look at this
play
one.
an actual replay at their own pace and with multiple angles as well. When someone does
Does
a
the comp
challenge.
pause until that's adjudicated?
And-
Do you stop the comp until that's
No, I don't think so.
That's
it
my
running?
that's my other issue. That's my other issue is that when there's a 2 white light lift, the lifters aren't really celebrating like they would without a jury.
Yeah, because they're like,
because they're like,
it's a jury gonna
I
overturn it."
wonder if this one's going to stick. And it kind of ruins a bit of the
does.
vibe of the comp and a bit of the like, because imagine if you're pulling for the win, you get 2 whites and you're
then you
like,
look at the
oh,
jury.
I've won. And then you're like, oh, have I won?
Yeah,
I don't know if I've
that
won. And
sucks.
then you have to wait, 30 seconds or a minute or however long it takes for the jury to okay it. I
think
just really,
Did that happen at World Games?
I actually, you know what, I'm actually
Sanitas-
changing my opinion. I reckon we should piss the jury off.
Well, I think the rule is the jury can only overturn a lift within 3 lifters or something like. There is a limit.
But
A
that's
time lifter?
that's way too
Yeah.
much time.
That's way too much time.
Yeah, or 2 or something. There's something that's
That gives you like
specified in the
a
rule book.
chance to watch it 30 times.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think the way that the jury is utilized, it should not exist.
I think
If
that
they did it well, there would be a good justification for using it. But the way that it's currently constructed, I think it has way more drawbacks than it does positives.
Well, let's face it, they're not operating as per the rulebook anyway. So if they operated as the rulebook stipulates, there wouldn't be an issue.
Well, I think the way it should be done is by almost like video replay, like similar to other sports where, like you said, someone comes up to challenge the lift. We could restrict it to only that lifter's coach. Go challenge the lift. They watch a video replay from different angles, and then they make the decision to either overturn or not overturn.
But to
That's it.
some degree, that's how they're supposed to operate according to the rulebook. I
Kind
don't know
of,
about
yeah.
the video replay, but that's how they're supposed to.
But
But at the moment, they're not operating within those parameters.
Therefore, can it?
unless
You
they
can't
just
just throw the baby out with the
in the
bathwater.
fucking bin. If you're not going to do a good job of something, why do
No,
do
but
it
you
at all,
overhaul it. You
Yeah, but it
overhaul so
can
that
be
they
better.
are
It
supposed
can be
But it's
improved.
already per the rule book a good idea, but it's poorly done.
No,
Yeah,
this,
so
this
do
is
it properly.
hypothetically if we were the IPF. What would
Hypothetically,
we do?
Yeah,
I would
sure,
I
do it
would
properly.
overhaul it with more clear defining
Yeah, and a proper system process.
a proper system and process so that it operates the way it's supposed to, and that is the stepping when there's, like as you said earlier, egregious
Yeah.
decisions made,
Yeah.
because they are still useful. Like if they operated properly,
Big giant if.
yeah, but in theory, everything's in theory.
Exactly,
If they
yeah.
operated the way they were supposed to, as stipulated by the rulebook, they are a useful fallback because decisions made at international events have really big weight, have really big impacts on the outcome.
And like we said, people make mistakes, and that's fine.
Yeah, so I wouldn't abolish the jury because they are there for a reason. They just
can be
need to,
useful.
They can be useful, and I think they just need to be. I mean, a lot of the refereeing standards and teachings need to be overhauled. I feel like
Yeah,
around the
you
rules
know what?
anyway.
I actually
so
think
I think that would be part and parcel of that process.
I actually think that's probably the bigger issue, is that there's inconsistencies in refereeing, which then makes the jury's rulings inconsistent, because the jury members are just referees. And
From other countries too,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And if
Right.
everyone is seeing things really, really differently, there's going to be inconsistencies. Whereas if we had better training or more sort of like globalized, if the IPF trained everyone and like trained all the countries on how to train their referees, we might get a bit more uniform decision making across the board,
And
which
I-
may clean up the jury, because people are then seeing things more similarly.
Yeah, but that's assuming that you're assuming that the federation is this one homogenous organization.
I also
when actually, in
think-
fact, it's made up of people from very different nations.
Totally, but that's part of the problem, is that whoever's heading up refereeing for the different country is setting the standard and setting the tone, and that's going to be different across different countries. Where I think the IPF needs to set up
Standardize it.
some sort of exactly
Yeah, I also think
standardize it across the board.
in a perfect world, the referees that are permitted to referee at international comps there should be a like revision or a refresher or like a renewal of their refereeing license. What is it? Referee accreditation, because man,
It varies a lot. Let's just
there are
say
some
that.
referees who should not be there. They should be
there's
at
just
home
a lot
having
of
a nap.
a lot of referees who've been doing this for a long time but haven't like stayed up to date
No.
with lifting. They don't coach, they don't train anymore.
No.
So they're not constantly seeing lifts all the time. Whereas like if you're a coach, you're refereeing every day, really. Like you're judging your own client's depth all the time. You're judging your client's lockouts, and you're getting that repetition, which is why I think a lot of the best referees are coaches, just because they're always
I
like
agree.
getting practice.
Yeah.
Some of the worst referees are also coaches, but that's another story.
Who do you?
Off.
Well, I think that is enough for today, guys. I think we've spoken plenty, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast.
Everyone
You
go
guys have
get
anything
aroused
else?
on the weekend.
Yeah, I hope you guys really get aroused from this podcast.
John's going to get aroused tomorrow.
Yeah, John's gonna get real aroused tomorrow,
100%.
but no head rubs.
No head rubs or pats.
Do you ever get annoyed with someone if you're trying to compete? Someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh, how City Strength? I bought this product and I didn't get it." in time."
Actually,
Surely
it actually
no one
doesn't
does
happen because most people don't know who I am when I go to comps, and that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just this random bald Asian guy that just rocks up.
He's his master's guy.
Well, no, I'm not that old.
Yeah.
Shaving your head hides the grays.
Well, yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tag your mates or something, however, to get this.
Tag your mates who get you aroused.
Yes, really tag them. And yeah, I hope you guys are all aroused. Thank you.